Okay, how are we doing? Welcome back to the Friday Brew on a Thursday. If I get it uploaded on time, that is. Like the mug. It's the Blur Coffee and TV. Tea and TV, I suppose. So, yeah, coronavirus. Unbelievable. It's really kicking off, isn't it? So I thought I'd better play my part. Remember those posts? Well, remember, like, we weren't alive, none of us. But in the World War II, like, your country needs you. Like, YouTube needs you. Your community needs you. So I thought I'd make a vid. It's a time where many people, but not everybody, of course, but many people are off. Some people lost their jobs, maybe, possibly watching this. It's sort of uncertain times. So I noticed a lot of people have uploaded vids, so I thought, well, I'd do one. Not do one as in leave YouTube, do one and make a vid. And yeah, I'll make them as frequently as I can. It's not going to be every day or anything like that, but if I can do one a week, maybe, no promises, then fine. And it'll be good if everyone else does as well, because it's something to watch, isn't it? In these kind of weird times. But yeah, when this coronavirus kicked off, I've got to be honest, at no stage was I ever one of those people who said, oh, this is nothing. It's absolutely nothing. I knew it was a big deal, but I didn't think it would get to the point where it's at now, with, like, you know, countries on lockdown. In the state of California, and this is like about a week ago now, maybe a bit less, I can't remember, but we're under, unless things have changed, and I've not really been paying much attention the last couple of days, but we at least were, if not still are, under, it's not a state, a place of lockdown, or state of lockdown, it's a shelter in place, it's called, which is, I think, the next step down from a lockdown, but for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much a lockdown. You know, we're advised not to go out at all, ideally, unless obviously you want to do shopping, and all that kind of stuff, and any sort of emergencies, whatever they may be. Most shops have closed, like the mall and all that kind of stuff. Most schools have closed down. My wife works at a school, so she's not working there. I think they're going in like maybe once or twice a week, you know, just maybe a couple of hours or so, just to do some paperwork. And, you know, things still need to be done. But in terms of, like, you know, kids and students being there, well, that's not happening. And hasn't for a couple of weeks or so. So yeah, and it's at the point now where, I mean, I've hardly left the house. In fact, I haven't left the house at all for the past, nearly a week, I think, which is ridiculous. I mean, I quite like it, to be honest. You know, YouTube, got games, got music, got all that kind of stuff, the internet. So I'm not really that bothered, to be honest, hermit. But yeah, eventually, obviously, you do want to get outside, just get some fresh air and all that kind of stuff. So I may go to do a very tiny bit of shopping tomorrow, just a tiny bit. But I've got to be honest, it's got to the point, I'm not one of those people who, like, you know, worries or thinks it's a big deal or downplays it or overplays it for that matter. I'm just kind of very level-headed and placid and just, you know, but it's got to the point where I'm a little bit sort of, I'm a bit embarrassed to say this, but maybe you're the same. I'm slightly apprehensive about even going outside, just in case, especially when you go into do a bit of shopping and mixing with the general public and all that kind of stuff. So, but at the same time, you've got to eat. And I know obviously you can do home deliveries, and I've talked about that before, home deliveries, which is embarrassing because the Safeway is only up the street from me, and there's other grocery stores as well, but that's probably the closest. And I've had home deliveries when I could have just went up there and been back in the space of a few minutes. So it's this embarrassment of, like, doing the order online and then them delivering it from there to here, and it's like, it literally takes 2 minutes. So I felt like really stupid opening the door, because they must have been thinking, why couldn't you have just went up the street to get this? But anyway, I've talked about that in the past. But at times like this, maybe a home delivery would be a good idea. But at the same time, you kind of want to get out a little bit, you know, when you're stuck indoors for like a week. So we'll see. I might go there quite early in the morning, just on a mission, get a few things and get out straight away. But in terms of mixing and all that kind of stuff with people in groups, I know Boris Johnson, obviously in the UK, has cracked down on that. I mean, he's on a bit of a hide into nothing. You know, people are coming out and they're slagging him off and saying, he should be doing this, should be doing that. It's like, oh, give him a break. Seriously. I mean, even if you're not a Tory voter, I think whoever the Prime Minister was or is, they're going to do the same thing. You know, in this period of uncertainty, it's really new. Obviously, these things have never happened before. It's unprecedented. People don't really know what to do. Plus, Boris Johnson was flanked and is flanked by experts. So it's not like he's deciding what to do, really. It's advisors telling him what to do. So anyway, I'm not defending a Tory government. But But I am saying that I think he's, from a distance, admittedly I'm in America, but I think he's doing a decent job. Is that controversial? I don't care. I think he's doing a decent job. Because what else would any other Prime Minister do right now? Right now, nothing. They'd all do the same thing. So yeah, and then I heard yesterday, or today actually, that nearly 500,000 people in the space of like 24 hours have volunteered for the NHS. You know, to do like chores for people, take things to maybe the elderly or people who need medicine or whatever it may be, give people lifts. And it's great, isn't it? I think at times like this, people coming together. It's not too dissimilar in America. Obviously, we don't have the NHS over here. But I'm sure people in communities are cobbling together and doing things for people. Or maybe not, I don't know. I say that, I've not seen anyone moving on my street. It's like, apart from next door, who seem to be on the move 24/7. Opening and closing the doors every 5 minutes. It's like, what the hell's going on? It's like a party. I don't know what is happening. It's not a party. No, I'm definitely not having a party because there's an elderly woman who lives there too. But yeah, other than that, it's been really, really quiet. You're not seeing that many people out. Obviously, I'm not going out, so I'm just, watching the old curtain twitching, looking outside. I can hardly see anyone. I just saw a very small and young family going for a walk before, like I presume the parents, and two very young kids, like toddlers really. But even then, they were kind of really eerily walking in like sort of single file. Well, that was about. They were definitely together. But apart from that, hardly any cars. It's just very, very quiet compared to normal. So, but that's that. Anyway, the coronavirus. So I know a lot of you will be not be working, but maybe some of you are as well. It's a difficult one, isn't it? What's going to happen as well when eventually we get back to normality? And how long is that going to be? Is it going to? They're talking like maybe like 3 months. But what about all the people who maybe lose their jobs? This could last for a long, long time. So we'll just have to wait and see. Play it by ear, see how it pans out. It's unprecedented times. It's all a bit weird. It feels a bit sort of like some kind of apocalypse. It's very strange times. But we will get through this. Everything will be all right. Eventually, we can laugh about it in the future. And quite a lot of people have died. But, we can look back and think, bloody hell, at least we've recovered from that. But when that's going to be, who knows? It could be a while off, couldn't it? But there's not a lot more I can add. I can try and drag this out a little bit more about the coronavirus, but there's not a lot more I can say. I tell you what, there is one more thing I can say about this. One of my wife's cousins has got the coronavirus. Can you believe that? So, she lives in New York City, and I think just sort of typical flu symptoms. And she's fine. It's not like one of those like really dangerous cases, but nonetheless, currently in hospital. I think due to come out soon. With the coronavirus. So just goes to show, doesn't it, that it's not just celebrities. Idris Elba, Tom Hanks, a load of footballers, Mikel Arteta, ex-footballer, Paolo Maldini. It's not just famous people. It's my wife's cousin as well. Definitely not famous. So Prince Charles, coronavirus. Unbelievable. So speaking of getting through this, I touched upon this in my previous pickups vid. If you watched that, if you haven't, then you've got nothing better to do during this coronavirus. Go back and watch it. If you want, no pressure. But I talked about my wisdom teeth, which I had taken out. Just literally shy of 1 month ago. And man alive, what an ordeal that was. So basically what happened, I can just about remember it. I should really have done this vlog a week or two ago, but, busy and all that kind of stuff, coronavirus kicking off. And so I've forgotten quite a lot of it, which is going to make for a rubbish vid. But basically, it was around about sort of mid-February, there or thereabouts, and I went to the dentist, and I kind of fast-tracked an appointment because I was having a couple of issues with back molars. One I'd kind of chipped fairly considerably, and the other one was chipped a little bit as well. Stupidly eating toffee and Skittles, and you don't think, do you? You're munching away, chewing down on these things, and you're oblivious to the fact that it could cause damage, potentially. So it got to the point, particularly with one of them, where I thought, well, I've kind of got to do something about it now. So got the appointment sorted out, went to the appointment. Anyway, long story short, the dentist is there and he's looking at it and he's gone, yeah, we're going to have to do something about those, obviously. He says, whilst we're here, although I had to book it for the following month, he said, whilst we're here, we might as well do these wisdom teeth, get them all out. Now, I'm one of those, unlucky, if you like, people who had all 4 wisdom teeth. So obviously 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. Some people don't have any come through as adults. Some people have 1, 2, 3. 4 is obviously not uncommon, and in some very rare situations, you get people who have more than 4, maybe extra teeth that grow in. So, I went there expecting to get some work done on 2 teeth. I ended up getting all 4 wisdom teeth taken out. So it was the following month. They booked me into the oral surgeon, which was just kind of down the street from where I live, so it's very handy. And the build-up was terrible because I knew like 2 weeks in advance I was going to have to get this done. And so you're looking at all these horror stories online, and whatever it is online, it's always dangerous, isn't it, looking for stuff on the internet. Whatever it is, there'll be something about it. There'll be a horror story version. So there's these stories of people who had died having their teeth out because they'd become infected and all that kind of stuff, which is obviously extremely rare, and they probably had underlying health conditions anyway. But of course, you don't really look at those details. You just look at the headline, and you're kind of freaking out a little bit, thinking, oh, bloody hell. You know, and then I was thinking, well, do I want to get like an anaesthetic for this, or a general I can never say that word. Anesthesia. No, that's not it. Anesthesia. Still can't say it. You're probably doing it in one take. That word, anesthesia. Whatever you call it. So I was thinking, do I want to get that? The anaesthetic, let's go with that one. Or do I want to get like kind of the sedation, where you're completely, I wish I'd never started saying that bloody word now. A sedation where, but there's different kinds of sedation. There's the one where you're completely out of it, or there's the conscious sedation, where you're really kind of drowsy, but you can respond. So I was thinking, well, maybe I want to get the one where I'm a bit drowsy. I didn't like the idea of being completely out of it. I'm not going to try and say that word again, which you're probably nailing in one attempt. And it just kind of put me off. It made me feel a little bit sort of uneasy, if I'm honest, of being completely out cold. I know a lot of you might be watching thinking, oh no, that's the best thing to do, because you don't know what's going on. The work's done for you, you wake up and everything's fine. Yeah, I get that, obviously. But it was just, for me, it was the thought of being under and not being aware of what's going on at all. It was just a little bit, I don't know, I didn't really like the idea of that happening. But anyway, that's what ended up happening. I wasn't really expecting it until 2 minutes before it happened. So, in fact, before that point, because obviously I was out of it, so I can't remember anything, so there's not much to tell during that part. But when I went in there, I was sitting down, and the kind of nurse or assistant, whatever, comes in. She's talking to me, and she's put like that the blood pressure thing on, the pad that kind of expands, and I'm sure she sort of like it. I couldn't quite look down, but I'm sure she put like some kind of like strapping down on my feet to stop me from moving. And I was thinking, bloody hell, am I in the right place? I'd gone to some sort of, remember that movie called what was it? Was it Hostel or Saw or something like that? Am I in the wrong building here? What's going on? So, but what can you do? You just got to go along with it. You trust them that they're doing the right thing. So yeah, she's doing that, or whatever she was doing. Maybe she's just admiring my shoelace. Maybe she's doing my shoelaces up. She was doing something down there. I don't know what it was. And then, so she's doing that, and then the doctor comes in, and he's from, originally, I think, where did he say he was from? Was that Nigeria? Maybe? One of those like African countries. Casual racism. Just painting the picture. Just trying to, as if you were there. And so I think it was Nigeria. But anyway, so he comes in, he says hi, I say hi back, of course. Why wouldn't I? And we're having a bit of a chat. And, well, he's doing most of the talking. And he's very pleasant, very professional, obviously. Why wouldn't he be? And then he hears me talking. And then almost straight away, he kind of interjects. And because he hears the accent, of course. Because he hadn't really heard it before that. Because I think I was just giving a couple of, really short kind of to-the-point answers. But when he came to me fully answering his question, he could hear the accent. And he sort of stopped me and his finger pointing out like that. And he went, where are you from? And I was about to say, and he went, are you from Hackney? I mean, ridiculous. Of course I'm not from Hackney with an accent like this. Unbelievable. I know my accent has softened over the years from as a kid moving to like Bournemouth at the age of like 8 or 9. And then moving to America. So my accent's kind of all over the place, really. Although it depends what mood I'm in. When I'm really animated and annoyed about something, I'm full on Northern. But I think for the most part, I've kept my accent, for the most part. But I do know, from having moved down to the south of England and now living in America, I've definitely, in the last sort of 20-odd years, I've had to enunciate a lot more, like really finishing your sentences, your P's and your T's and all that kind of stuff. So I've definitely noticed I've done that in public, and sometimes I do that on YouTube. But anyway, I digress. So he looks at me, points at me, he's like, "You from Hackney?" And I was like, no. I said, but I did that very British thing where you don't want to make people feel really stupid. I just went, I'm not. I said, but not far from Hackney. He's like, miles from Hackney. Nowhere near it. The opposite end of the country. And even when we moved down to Bournemouth, it's still like 2 hours from London. So anyway, I did that thing where I went, yeah, not far. Not far. He went, oh yeah, because I used to work there. He used to do his sort of degree or whatever in dentistry, I presume. And I was like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, I used to really like it. And then he went, and then I went up north for a bit, he said, and I went to Burnley and Lancashire, and I'm like, oh, this is getting nearer my neck of the woods now. And I'm like, yeah, I recognise all these places like Preston and Manchester and Liverpool and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, that's unbelievable. He says, what are the chances? What are the chances? It's kind of weird that he's been in Hackney. So anyway, so we had that little chit chat, and that was nice because it sort of softened the mood, because I was a little bit tense, because you're going in to have your teeth whipped out. Not all of them, but wisdom teeth, back teeth, and all that kind of stuff. So I was a little bit slightly on edge, a little bit apprehensive, because a lot of people get this done at the age of like late teens or early 20s, and here's me doing it like 20 years later. But anyway, I digress. So went in there, get the thing strapped, she plays around with my feet, whatever she was doing there, like I said. And then the doctor, I think he says, or the oral surgeon, the guy from Hackney, via Nigeria, he was like, he says, right, I'm just going to put this needle into your arm. He says, you might feel it, a little kind of, prick, save the jokes. And I thought, okay, so I braced myself for this slight sting. And I felt it. It didn't hurt, of course, but I felt it go in. And then he went and squeeze your hand, so I kind of squeezed my hand. And he said, and in a second, you're probably going to start feeling a bit faint, and then you'll be basically asleep. And then I was out. That's the last I remember. The last I remember about that. And then I woke up, would have been maybe just under, there or thereabouts, an hour later. And, I was there, basically the nurse or the assistant, whatever you call her, the title of her, I'm not sure. Let's just call her the nurse. She was repeatedly calling my name, trying to wake me up. And eventually, of course, I did. I kept hearing the name. But, when you're really tired, when you haven't even had, an operation or whatever, just in general, when sometimes you're waking up from a normal sleep, and it takes you a while, you hear someone or something, and it's like... And then eventually it gets to that point where you're fully kind of awake and compos mentis. And then I was like, oh, actually, I remember where I'm at now. It's ridiculous. So then I had this gauze in my mouth, and they put this gauze, which is sort of not quite tissue paper, but think of it like that. Maybe a bit harder in terms of the density, and that stops the blood, because obviously you've had the teeth taken out. So you kind of need to press down on there, bite down, not too hard, but hard enough. And they give you sort of a few days supply of that, and I think you've got to change it every couple of hours or something. As I touched upon in that pickups vid, I was on basically a diet for a week or two, still kind of doing it, but I'm introducing a lot more normal food now, to the point where it's almost business as per usual. So crisps, chocolates, ridiculous, never learn. But for the first week or two, it was soft foods. It's yogurts, puddings. Again, I touched upon in my last pickups vid. Puddings over here in America is basically a chocolate yogurt, like a moussey kind of thing. So, so not to be confused like a pudding in the UK, like a dessert. So a lot of stuff like that. Applesauce, drinking broth. It was the Friday broth I think I talked about last time as well, which is what I was drinking out of my tea. Speaking of, I need another swig. What else was I drinking or eating for that matter? Well, obviously lots of water and lots of smoothies, all that kind of stuff. Not really tea, because they don't want you to drink warm stuff or certainly not hot, but not particularly warm. So, basically that was it. I was eating a lot of soft foods, really, really soft foods, yogurts. I'm trying to think what else. Hardly anything, and I touched upon the fact that I lost around about nearly 10 pounds. And so that ties in with, at the start of the year, just eating that little bit more healthy. So I think since January the 1st, I've probably lost about 14, 15 pounds, I think, which is good. I definitely feel it. And I look a little bit trim, and I feel it. I still need to lose another, at least half a stone, because the pot belly just doesn't disappear. You don't see it, but it's a little bit of a pot belly. It's nothing crazy. I'm not obese, but it's a little bit too much. So another half a stone at least would be nice. Within the next few months, give or take. But of course, now I can eat relatively normal. I've gone back to eating chocolates and crisps and all that kind of stuff. I'm an idiot, but there we are. Moderation. So that was that. And and then I went back to my checkup a week later, which is standard. You've only got to do it once, so I don't have to go back. And they gave me this syringe. So you fill the syringe with warm-ish, certainly not hot, warm water, salt water as well. So it's a little cup, fill it up pretty much to the top with warm water from the kettle, and then get a tablespoon or a teaspoon of salt, mix it in, and then the syringe, you fill it up, and then you basically hover the syringe over the extraction sites just at the bottom. You can't really do the top because of course the water will be shooting up, so it's just the bottom wisdom teeth that you do it for. And then you just basically, after you've had a meal, every few hours, whatever it may be, you just hover the syringe over the top, squirt the water in slowly, and then any debris of food which is in there basically rises to the top and then flushes out, just like you're using mouthwash basically. So you've got to do that maybe 2 or 3 times a day, depending on how much you're eating and what you're eating and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've been doing that for the past sort of 2.5, 3 weeks, whatever it is. And I guess I've still got to keep doing that for a while, because as you get older, when you get your wisdom teeth taken out, the holes which are there, ultimately from where the teeth were, they take longer to close. When you're young, they heal much quicker. When you're older, they take a bit of time. So they're still there, obviously, but they're smaller than what they were. And as the weeks and months go by, then they'll just seal over. That's just what happens naturally. The body does that, like a self-defense healing kind of thing, which is good. I mean, the body is an amazing thing. It really is, how it can heal itself with so many things. It's just unbelievable. But so that's that. So in a few months' time, maybe, hopefully less, I'll be able to stop using that syringe. But I'm not injecting myself with the syringe. Like I said, it's just fill it with water. That's all it is. It's just look at it like a mouthwash. So that's that. So the whole kind of coronavirus is going on. So I'm not really going out, as I touched upon, especially with a bit of mild asthma, but also because I'm slightly nervous. I feel a bit embarrassed saying that, but I think a lot of you were in that same boat. And then, as I've just explained, I had the whole teeth gate, wisdom teeth gate, which was an ordeal, but it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt at any stage, I've got to be honest. It was slightly uncomfortable at times. What I will say is the first maybe 2 or 3 days afterwards, well, actually maybe 4 or 5 days, I couldn't really open my mouth all the way steady, being filthy. So I couldn't really do anything too much, like I was going to say the tongue. It's getting worse. I couldn't really use my tongue for the first, sort of week or so, not properly. And it was numb as well for like the first sort of 24 hours. Perfectly normal. That's what's going to happen. But it was, I think it's a lockjaw, I think they kind of call it. It wasn't like full on. I think it's TMJ. I can't remember exactly what it stands for. Something jaw, I imagine. Lock? No. No, I don't know. Who knows what it is? You can Google it if you're not bothered. But yeah, it's pretty normal to have. And then, as the days kind of go by, you can open your mouth that little bit wider, stop it, and you can start to do, just eat more normal stuff and do stuff. I wish I never started a sentence. So, but anyway, so that's that. It's a lot better now. And yeah, it's just, everything's pretty much back to normal. I'm eating normal food. I shouldn't really be eating sharp foods, like Doritos and all that kind of stuff. I have had a bag, I've got to be honest. But I don't think I'm going to be doing that for too much longer. So, yeah. And then I had my regular, what would have been my regular dentist checkup, because I kind of fast-tracked it for this. That was due to be yesterday, I think. Yeah, yesterday. But they cancelled it. So going along with the whole kind of schools and dentists and most places being closed. So I'll have to go back there in probably 2 or 3 weeks or whenever they do that. But that's just the standard kind of, bi-monthly or bi-annual checkup, so nothing crazy there. So there we are. I've just talked for over 20 minutes. That was probably just bored your bloody ears off, didn't I, doing that? Okay, so let's move on to what I've been watching recently. These next 2 shows I've not finished watching. There's 2 left of this one, and it's called Bulletproof. And I think it was on Sky One. So they've done season 1. Season 2, I think, just came out the other day. Or series, again, because it's British-based. And then I think they announced, I read earlier on, was it like a 3-part series they're going to do right at the end of the year? Like some kind of like a finale, maybe, until they do the inevitable, I suppose, season 3, or series 3. So basically, it's like a cop buddy show. It's like a throwback to something like a Dempsey and Makepeace, The Sweeney, Beverly Hills Cop, maybe is a good comparison to use, albeit in a very British way. So, I mean, I really like it. You've got your 2 main characters. There's Aaron Bishop and Ronnie Pike. And they're basically 2 childhood friends. One of them, Bishop, is from like a really kind of almost poverty-stricken background. He grew up in like a foster home, moving from house to house, and, that kind of background, which obviously can't have been great. I know it's not real, but nonetheless. And then you've got his mate, who is very kind of privileged in comparison. You know, his dad is very high-ranking in, like, the police force, so very privileged, extremely middle class, and that's an understatement. But they come together because they're just mates, and, you know, as kids, they just saw the good, obviously, in just people being taking them for who they were, just as people. So they become cops, and they're buddies, and they're just fighting crime, essentially, Batman and Robin. That's kind of what it is. So it's a threat, and the reason why I use Beverly Hills Cop is because Beverly Hills Cop, and the sooner they get on with that fourth movie, the better. I'm desperate to see that. I hope it's good. It's got to be better than the third one. Bloody hell. But anyway, I digress again. So, but the reason why I mentioned Beverly Hills Cop is because it's got that humour in it. It's got the kind of violence as well. This is pretty violent in places. It's certainly got the language as well, which Beverly Hills Cop had. So that's what I'd kind of use. That's the analogy. It's kind of like Beverly Hills Cop, but in a TV series form and based in the UK. Ironically, probably Hackney. So maybe I should recommend it to the the oral surgeon. You might recognise some landmarks, maybe not. So yeah, but I've been really liking it, and I think there's only 6 episodes in the first series. Nearly said season again there. And so yeah, I've got another. I'm on episode 5. I'm like halfway through it. So yeah, I'll watch the rest of that, maybe even tonight, and then maybe I'll start on season 2 the next sort of few days or so, give or take. So I'm liking it. I don't know what the reception's been like. I've not watched any reviews. I think it was on Sky One, like I say, so I'm not sure if it's got a bit of a good or bad reputation. I don't know whether it's a bit cheesy, whether people think it's rubbish. I've no idea. All I know is that it looked interesting, and I just thought I'll check it out. So basically what it was, I'm gonna have another swig here. I was watching Soccer Saturday. We get Soccer Saturday over here because I'm subscribed to NBC Sports Gold. And they do like the live Premier League games, although obviously no live games right now because of sport being cancelled. Euro 2020 is now Euro 2021. The Olympics is going to be next year. Everything's changing. So, but yeah, so anyway, usually there'd be the Premier League football. And on Saturday they do the live, with Jeff Stelling. Unbelievable Jeff broadcast. So I love watching that. Even though you don't see any goals, it's just the 4 guys sitting around a monitor that you can't even see. But it's something really addictive about it. I love it. Always have. So anyway, so it was during an ad break. So I was watching it live on a Saturday, like several weeks back, and the ad break came on. So because it's like a live stream, all the British Sky adverts are being shown. And it kept showing during every ad break, this Bulletproof. And I thought, I've got to watch that. Initially, I just wasn't really interested, but the more they showed it, like subliminal messages, it was kind of getting to me. And I thought, yeah, I wouldn't mind watching that. So that's what introduced me to it. So I checked it out, and there's a channel on YouTube. They've got all the episodes already. So I've just been watching that. So yeah, I'm really liking it. But like I said, I don't know if people think it's rubbish. Not sure if you've seen it. But if you like cop shows, because it's a little bit of a throwback, like I say, to like the 80s especially, and the 90s for that matter, then give it a watch. I quite like it anyway. And then last but not least, 1 episode to go on this one. It's The Mandalorian. And so obviously based in the Star Wars universe. And I've got to be honest, again, I'd heard really mixed reviews about this. And I think it's excellent. I really like it. I'm a big Star Wars fan anyway. So I suppose that helps. But I've been having a lot of fun with it. I think production's great. You'd expect that. This is a proper, sci-fi Star Wars licensed thing, as you'd expect. It's on the Disney Plus channel, I think it's called, which I had to subscribe to. Because I wanted to watch it, and it was the only real way to do it. So, but I think it's only something like $5 a month. And there's a lot of stuff on there on the Disney Channel, to be fair. So I've been watching a lot of it with my wife as well. There's a few programmes we're watching together. And then she's watching 1 or 2 things which I'm not really bothered about. So I can come into the games room, the music room, really, more than the games room. But I can come into here and have a 5-10 minutes to myself while she's watching some musical thing, whatever it is. Not that I don't mind musicals, but there's a couple of them that but anyway, you'll know what it's like if you're married or you've got a partner or whatever. Sometimes, it's nice for you to do your thing. They can do their thing, and yeah, sometimes it's best to do that. We all need our me time, don't we? We all need that. We all absolutely do need that. So anyway, going off on one. So subscribe to the Disney Plus channel, and it's good. I do like it. It's worth $5, but The Mandalorian, I think it's really, really good. 1 episode to go. I will say it's been predictable so far. You kind of know what's going to happen, so there's no real massive surprises, but production value is really good. I thought the plots in places have been a little bit sort of cheesy, but you'd expect that. There have been times where they've really fast-tracked certain story arches, but of course they've got to cram it into 50 minutes, there or thereabouts per episode. So they've got to miss out a lot of details. You know, I was watching a few episodes with one of my wife's cousins, not the one with coronavirus. And he's very analytical, which isn't a criticism. I mean, that's a good thing to have. But he's one of those people who really gets into things and will question everything. Why didn't they show that? Why didn't they do this? And so he's constantly, as we were watching it, he was like, well, why haven't they done that? Why didn't they talk about that? And I'm like, but it can only fit into like an hour. You know, otherwise every episode's going to go on for like 7 hours, which I wouldn't mind watching, actually, because I do love Star Wars. So, yes, they've got to miss out a lot of stuff. They've got to condense it. They've got to maybe make you use your imagination. So there's a lot of ambiguity going on as well. So you've got to kind of fill in the gaps and speculate maybe as to what happened. But, yeah, overall, I really like it. And I think Season 2 was announced a long time ago, but I don't know when that starts. It might be very soon. I'm not sure. But yeah, the Mandalorian, the Star Wars universe, really liking it. So I'm sure a lot of you have already seen that. If not, I do advise it. And let's face it, Star Wars is better than Star Trek. Oh, God. Rubbish.
Maybe.
Star Trek. Saying that, they did have that. Was it a TV series or was it a movie? That's how little, I should say, that I know about Star Trek. But something new has come out recently, the last sort of few months. And it looked mildly interesting, so I might check it out. But it must be a coincidence, but every single time I've ever put Star Trek on, it's like 8 people, well, 6 people, 2 Klingons, and they're always standing on the Starship Enterprise, yapping away. Nothing is happening. It's just constant dialogue and talking. It's rubbish. Just shoot at each other. Get some excitement going on. You know, but nothing happens. It's rubbish. Star Wars always wins, I'm telling you. So anyway, that's that. Let's move on to what I've been playing. Now let's start with the game behind me, which you probably clocked about an hour ago. And it's Ridge Racer Revolution on the PlayStation, on the PS1. So, where do I begin with this game? So I really want to love this game, and I always have. When this came out, which it says on the back of the box 1995, in fact it says 93, 94 and 95, but I think it actually came out in 96. But when this came out, even back then, of course, I was really excited because I absolutely adore Ridge Racer. One of my favourite games of all time, one of my favourite arcade cabs of all time. The PlayStation 1 version is amazing, I absolutely love it. Yeah, blinkered with nostalgia and rose-tinted glasses, of course, but I just think it looks great, plays great, sounds great. It's a brilliant game. It's one of my favourite games ever, period, full stop. So when this was announced, of course, I was really excited. And when I played it, and I don't think I bought it, I think I maybe borrowed it off a friend, but I remember being really, not so much disappointed, but just extremely underwhelmed. For me, it's a step back from the original Ridge Racer. It kind of looks the same. There's a few extra new tracks, there's a few extra cars, there's a few different tracks, in terms of music tracks as well, I should say, audio tracks. The announcer is back, but he's even more annoying this time round. But it's the playability for me, which is, it's gone backwards. You come to much more of a grinding halt. The enemy, or the AI, the opposition, the cars, they're a lot more aggressive, and sometimes if they get in front of you, and it always seems to be the yellow car for me, it's like my nemesis, constantly knocking you, pushing you back and wasting valuable seconds, and repeatedly as well. Like I had a race the other day, I finished second on the expert level, and it would have been first if it wasn't for this bloody yellow car, which it must have knocked me back about 20 times during the course of the race. And I'm not even joking, and this was yesterday, because I said I can't remember, I turned the air blue, like I've never done. Now, whether it's because of part of the frustration of being, indoors for a week because of coronavirus, hashtag COVID-19 and all that kind of stuff, maybe the frustration came out, but if you'd have heard me yesterday, you'd have been like, bloody hell, Alex, I didn't know you had those words in you. You name the words, whatever it was, I was saying it 50 times. I was just going ballistic. And of course, when you turn it off, I don't know if anyone has ever done this before, but because you're in the moment and the sound and TV's on and you're swearing and it's quite loud. I wasn't screaming, I mean, don't get me wrong, but I was being quite vocal. And then you turn the machine off and everything's quiet and you think, bloody hell, can everyone hear me outside? I don't think they did. I wasn't that loud, but I got really paranoid. But yeah, I was really, really stressed out playing this game yesterday. Really stressed out. So, but yeah, it's one of those games, like I said, I've always wanted to like it. Over the years, whenever it's been on the shelf and I kind of put my finger along the games thinking which one am I going to pick out, it is always, since 1996, it has always been one of them games where I've looked at and thought, maybe today's going to be the day. Maybe today is the day that I'm going to finally get Ridge Racer Revolution. And here we are, March 2020, the end of March really now. I still don't get it. I want to love this game. I'm just struggling with it. It's just the playability. It's not as intuitive. It's not as responsive for me. There's less emphasis on drifting in this game than the original Ridge Racer. And more crucially, there's much more of a standstill, like I say, that you come to as a result of barging into you, the opposition cars. And it just disrupts and halts the gameplay. The flow of it, I don't know, I just find it an immensely frustrating game. Yet, there is something that I do like. And I think it's Ridge Racer, because it looks the same, it almost plays the same. It's the same game for all intents and purposes, so that's what constantly draws me back. But it's not as good. At least that's still my opinion. You know, nearly 25 years later. And I feel harsh saying it, because there's a lot of people who absolutely love it, but I'm struggling with it, I've got to be honest. So, have you played Ridge Racer Revolution? What do you think of it? Is it just me? Or do you struggle with it in comparison to the original one? Or is it just a case of just practice makes perfect? Because what I did figure yesterday, during my kind of 2-ret session with it, is that if you hold down the accelerator constantly, I mean literally never let go of the accelerator, so like the X button I think, as you're going around the track, literally, then the chances are you're probably going to finish quite high up the pecking order. You will probably crash quite a lot, but because your button's constantly on the accelerator, you will pick up pace straight away. So maybe that's just a bit of a cheat mode to doing it. I still didn't do the expert level. 3rd is the best place I've got so far. But really frustratingly, it's been 3rd where I was 1st, like 10 seconds from the edge, from the end of the race, and then someone will inevitably knock into me from behind and bump me off course, or I'll knock into a corner. And then there's like this rubber banding effect where everybody overtakes you, and you're like, really? Really? So, that's that. Ridge Racer Revolution. I do like it. Well, I've just slagged it off. It's okay, but I certainly don't love it, and I do prefer the first one. I'm getting into it a bit more the more I'm playing it, but yeah, as I say, it's just, there's something about it. It still hasn't registered with me as being the game that I feel I should love. I just kind of tolerate it thus far. So anyway, that's that. Now, let's move on to Terminator Resistance. So I've wanted this game for ages. I think it was late last year this was announced, and the advertising has been minimal to say the least. And getting a physical copy in America is really difficult. A low print run, I imagine, is the reasoning. So why that's the case, I don't know, for what is a licensed game, but it's a budget game. This isn't a $60 game, although, ironically, it is kind of going for $60 because they're short of supply for the physical version, at least in America. And weirdly as well, this got a release about 2 months before in Europe and the rest of the world before the States. I don't know why that was the case. So anyway, I should say, it was a game that was announced, and I thought it looked all right, but it was very evident that it was a low-budget game. You know, this is not the full works of a really finely tuned, polished AAA title. It's not that. It kind of looks like I wouldn't say a PS3 game or a 360. It looks better than that, but maybe early PS4, Xbox One generation, the early generation. It's kind of what it looks like. So initially I was a little bit underwhelmed. I thought maybe I'll get it eventually, because I do like the Terminator movies, although I've yet to see the latest one, and I know there's controversy about it, but yeah, I'll watch it and I'll talk about it in the future. But yeah, I nonetheless, I'm a big fan of the franchise, and I thought, well, I'm going to get this game. Anyway, since I found out it was really hard to get the physical version unless you want to pay like sort of $60 odd, when I think the retail is $40, I thought, well, I'm just going to wait. I want it, but not to the point where I'm going to pay over $60 for it. And then about a month ago, there or thereabouts, they had a sale on the PlayStation Network. So here we are again, digital games. But it was, I think, $15, $14.99 or something like that. $15 being around about 12 quid. So I looked at it and I thought, all right, well, it's a digital version, but $15 or what is currently $60. I'm not going to get it for any less than that. And I thought, for the sake of saving, I mean, obviously I'll save all the money in the meantime, but I'm not going to get a plastic case. But big deal for the sake of like sort of $40, $45. I thought it was, I don't know, I thought $15 was just a sensible thing to do. So I paid the $15 and I've played the game, I finished the game, I've got the Platinum Trophy for it, got a few platinums recently, actually. Just on a roll. It's ridiculous. And what I'll say is the reviews for it have been all over the shop. A lot of the so-called professional reviews, like IGN's and there's a game, someone or other game trailers, I can't even remember. I don't really watch them, but I did watch a few just to get a feel for the vibe as to what people thought about the game before I made this vid. And they're all getting scores like 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, very, very either bad or average reviews. But what I'll say is I think it's excellent. I really like it. And subsequently, I've watched a few like, normal people like you and I, just average normal people who also have bought the game. We really like it. Yet the so-called professionals don't like it. I make of that what you will. So yeah, you've got to bear in mind, it's not a AAA game, it's a AAA franchise, but it's not a AAA game, so it looks kind of very early this gen, but still looks good for me. Playability is good and solid. There's a few things in. There's a few bugs in there. You get that a lot with modern games, of course. It's just the way it is. The sound effects are fantastic. The story's all right. The AI is very easy. There's no doubt about it. But you can put the difficulty up. But even if you play on the lower setting, you're still going to get the platinum trophies. It's not difficult. So if you're into getting all the trophies or achievements, then you might want to get it just for this, or for that reason. So, but I thought it was a really good experience. I probably played took me about 12 hours, there or thereabouts, from start to finish, taking my time, doing a few little side quests, because even though it's, like a first-person shooter where you've just got to go from A to B, there's an element of open worldness to it, where you can be given tasks, and you don't have to do them, it's just optional. But I did, and they're all in the vicinity anyway, pretty much, of what you're doing. So you've not got to veer off too far to do them. But I enjoyed them. So there's a lot of looting, picking things up, a lot of crafting that you can do to upgrade. So there's an element of RPG, very minor part of RPG in the game, but not really. There's not much of an emphasis at all. It's just an element of it, I suppose. So, with the crafting. What I found, though, is that really, as good as a lot of the weapons are, some of them are very similar. You don't really need to get them all. You can just basically stick with the first sort of 2 or 3 guns. And as soon as you get the first plasma, then you're good to go, basically. The others are good to get. It mixes things up a little bit, but they don't differ too much. And then especially when you've maxed out, your kind of individual kind of abilities for weaponry and personal kind of skills, like speed and hacking abilities and all that kind of stuff. As soon as you've done that, you're pretty much, obviously maxed out to your ability, so it becomes very easy. So, speaking of hacking, there's this little sort of, remember Frogger, where you've got to get from like A to B? They've implemented that, so to hack the machines, you've kind of got to, it's like a Frogger clone essentially, which is really addictive. I was absolutely loving it. Something so simple and seems like a bit of a novelty ends up being like a really high part of the game for me, or high point of it. So I like that, I thought that was pretty good. And then with each kind of notch in difficulty when it comes to hacking a terminal or whatever it might be, then the difficulty goes up, so there'll be more obstacles like in the road to manoeuvre beyond, but it's not too difficult. It's more of a test of reflexes than anything else, but I really like that. So yeah, you can go off to like the Skynet facilities, and most of them, I think, or maybe almost all of them are optional, so you can blow those up. So like I said, there's an element of open worldness to it, a lot of crafting with medikits, although they're everywhere, so you don't really need them, especially on the early levels anyway. Because by the end of the game, I had like a backlog of sort of 50 odd medikits, and you're only needing really to use 1 or 2 every sort of 20-30 minutes or something. So the game's too easy. The AI's a little bit all over the shop. You can craft lockpicks as well. But the thing that I found with those is it was completely redundant, because you can pick so many up, and because with all the materials that you can pick up, like by opening drawers and put them into your backpack and all that kind of stuff, or finding them on the floor or hidden away wherever they may be. Because of all those things, the materials you're picking up, you can just create, like dozens upon dozens upon dozens of lockpicks. So when you get to a situation where you've got to use a lockpick, and it's this thing you've got to do with like the controller, with like the analog sticks where you move them around, but you can just bypass that completely by pressing the randomization button. And then what that'll do is it'll just randomly generate, like it's a sort of like a 50-50. So you run the risk of losing a lockpick, but if it works for you, it'll unlock. But because you've got so much stock of these things, sometimes 30, 40, 50 lockpicks in a row, then for every lockpick you get to, if you just keep pressing the random button, the chances are it's going to do it for you within the first 6 or 7 anyway. So it made the whole thing of creating lockpicks or spending time moving the analog sticks to unpick it, it makes that completely redundant. So just instead, just repeatedly tap the lottery, if you like, of the randomization, and you will unlock it within seconds. So that was a bit of a strange thing to do by the developers. But nonetheless, ultimately, once all is said and done, I really liked it. There are multiple endings, but there's not really a great deal of difference. I mean, there is in terms of the story arch of what happens with certain people and certain things that they could or couldn't have, or did do, or didn't in some cases. But it's more like a storyboard at the end, like it's played out like kind of a cartoon, so like stills, like hence a storyboard. So the replay value's not really there. There's a lot of dialogue in the game, which can affect the ending of the game. But again, not really to the point where you're going to be going out your way to finish it anytime soon. So you're probably just going to do what I did, and instead just go onto YouTube and just watch the alternate ending rather than having to go through it all again. Because when you see the alternate ending, it's like, well, I'm glad I didn't spend 8, 10, 12 hours doing the whole game just to see those extra 5 seconds. So, but at least they put that optional kind of extra ending in there to mix things up a little bit. So anyway, I'll sum it up by saying I really liked it. Got to be honest, it's got a lot of negative reviews when it came to the professionals, but I thought it was really good, and I'd recommend it. But do bear in mind, it's like I say, it's not a AAA game, and it does have some bugs. It's very easy, but for what it is, I liked it. So if you like the Terminator games or the Terminator franchise, pick it up. It's really, really good. And I think in the UK as well, where most people who are subscribed to me are watching from, then you shouldn't have any difficulty getting the game, physical game. But in America, it's a lot harder. And then last but not least, again, not going to talk. I say again, I'm not going to talk too in depth. Just spent an hour talking about that one. But just very briefly, I've been playing Battlefield 5. So I'd ignored this game for months, really. Went back to it the other day. And I've got to be honest, I'm not much of an online gamer these days. I've said quite a few times in recent times that going back a few years, it was all about online gaming for me. If you didn't online game, you were a weirdo. And now I've turned into one of those weirdos who, well, we're not weirdos, obviously, but I've turned into one of those people who I used to think are weirdos who just prefer single-player games. But nonetheless, I went back to Battlefield the other day, and I love the big open maps. And that's one of the things I love about it. You know, it's a huge warfare. It's not just taking place between like sort of 4 or 5 people. It's a big kind of map with loads of weapons, loads of vehicles. Teamwork is good. Also, the people, even though I don't use a headset and all of that nonsense, the people you play with, generally speaking, tend to be quite mature. Whereas other first-person shooters, we're not going to name the one, it's more maybe for a slightly younger demographic. And that franchise, Call of Duty, yeah, I've not really played that for, about 7 or 8 years. Not really. It's not really my thing, but it used to be, I'm not going to lie. But Battlefield, yeah, I haven't been having a lot of fun with it. In fact, what you would have seen so far is I've put some footage on. Some clips of me looking great, obviously. Conveniently keep out all the clips where I'm rubbish. You just see these ones and you think I'm a ninja. But yeah, some footage. And there's a funny one, which I might actually show now, there or thereabouts. And it's just a very brief clip. So there's a guy, basically, who just so happens to pop his head up just as I decide to shoot a bazooka. And it explodes on his head on impact. I had no idea he was there. I kind of guessed there was people there because they were trying to work their way up this sort of embankment. So I knew people were there, but I didn't expect him to appear, just pop up as soon as the bazooka kind of hit him in the head. Brilliant shot. And it just made me laugh at the time when it happened. So I thought, I've got to record that. So yeah, the quality that you're seeing, or maybe would have seen by now, either way, was recorded straight from the PlayStation 4 Pro. So the quality's not amazing. So bear that in mind. If you're watching on a very small window, it'll look a lot better than if it's stretched out on a TV, I think. But nonetheless, I thought I'd put that footage in there. So yeah, Battlefield 5. I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right for myself on that game. I'm pretty handy. Obviously you're in squads, but I don't really kind of do much squad work. I go off and I do my thing, and generally speaking, I'll be a sniper. But I'll mix it up a little bit. I'll mix it up from time to time. I've still got the skills. I think once you've got them, you don't lose them. So yeah, Battlefield 5, I have been enjoying it. But I go through phases with these games where when I get back into it, like I have done the last sort of 24, 48 hours, I'll play it for several days in a row. But then I'll get to that point where I'm bored of it and I'll ignore it for weeks or months at a time. That's kind of how I operate when it comes to online games these days, which is in stark contrast to what it used to be, where it was, get home from work and go online with my mates, headset, teaming up, talking, having banter, and, don't get me wrong, it was great memories, the early days of the 360, right in my 20s and my late 20s, and carrying on through to my sort of early 30s, and then after that, I sort of lost interest in online gaming, for the most part, but I do still dabble, obviously, from time to time. I guess as well, it depends who you're with. If you're playing with mates, even though I've not done that for a long time, I do have friends, one or two, more. You are obviously my friends. Listen, as you get older, your social circle becomes less and less, doesn't it? It's life. It's just part of. I don't mind at all, to be honest. But anyway, I digress. So obviously, I know people. What was I saying? But when you're playing online with mates, it's great. I'm not going to lie. When you're playing with randoms, it's not that fun. Not really. I suppose it can be, and you can get to know them. But anyway, I'm talking bollocks. So let's move on. Let's move on, in fact, to what I've been reading very quickly, because I've not finished this book, but I've started it. It's called Chinglish by Sue Chung. And basically, this is written in diary form. I don't know if you can kind of see this. I'll just skip through. It's a bit of a lottery as to what you're looking at. But you may have deciphered already, or seen for yourself, that it's basically a modern version of The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole from the 80s and the 90s, which was written by Sue Townsend. Spine, just in case you need to see that. So, I recently heard about this book. I think it came out last year. And, I just thought it sounded interesting. It's based in 1984. So, again, it's got that sort of Adrian Mole sort of element to it. And I love Adrian Mole. Sue Townsend's books are absolutely fantastic. I grew up on them. I was reading them at the age of kind of 6 or 7. So, I've always kind of been around them, and I think they're fantastic. The TV series as well, the Adrian Mole TV series from the late 80s, 87, 88, 89, there or thereabouts, are brilliant. I absolutely love them. Julie Walters plays his mum in season 1, and then in season 2, I've done it again, series 1 and 2, it's Lulu. She plays the role of his mother. But it's just, most of the other actors, I think, are pretty much the same. Adrian Mole is the same person, and the dad, and all that kind of stuff. So, very much a zeitgeist, those TV programmes. They're very much of their time. But if you're around about my age, and you get nostalgic for like the 80s, and on top of that, you love Adrian Mole and the universe and the world that Sue Townsend created, watch them. They're probably on YouTube. I'm sure they are. So, couple of series for you to watch there, along with The Man in the High Castle, Bulletproof, and The Mandalorian. So that's that. So Chinglish, really good, and check it out if you're into that kind of stuff. And then last but not least, a couple of CDs I've been listening to. I know I keep threatening to do a music vid. I will do it soon. As and when I do them, I keep saying it, you're going to get bored of hearing it. As and when I start doing music vids, please don't think that you've got to watch it like as a sympathy vote or anything like that. In fact, don't. If you're not into music, because it's nothing to do with gaming. I'm not into gaming vinyl, none of that. It looks cool, but just not for me. We're strictly talking sort of like bands and artists and all that kind of stuff. So a couple of artists I've been listening to. The first one is a shoegazing band called Chapterhouse. And this is basically, like I say, shoegazing, alternative rock, bit of dream pop. This is a debut album called Whirlpool. If you are familiar with them, you'll probably know the song called Pearl. I'll put a link in the description box. If you're curious, you can check it out. And I really like it. So if you're into that kind of shoegazing music, then you might get a bit of a kick out of this. So I picked this up recently on eBay. I think it was like $5. It's a little bit battered, but it's a CD, so what can you do? I'll clean it up a little bit, the case. It's a little bit grubby. But I'm enjoying that. That's pretty good. And then last but not least, I can feel my voice going, so I better have another swig. Last but not least, it's the third album from Supergrass, the self-titled album, so just called Supergrass. And so songs like Moving, you'll surely know that one, Pumping on Your Stereo, Mary, Jesus Came from Outer Space, that wasn't a single, but I do like that one as well. It's a good album, maybe obviously not as good or as popular as I Should Coco, or what was their second one called, In It for the Money. Those are better albums, but this nonetheless is a good one. So it came out in 1999, and Supergrass, who have recently reformed as well. I saw that coming an absolute mile off. It was about a year ago on Twitter, and someone had put something, in fact it might have been Supergrass themselves, they announced some kind of they said something I'm paraphrasing, but something along the lines of a tweet which said, coming next year, so in 2020, a box set, 25th year anniversary, something like that. And I responded, I was like, wait and see, and guarantee you they will be reforming. Of course they will. And one or two people were like, well, that's not going to happen. Well, obviously it's happened. Anyone could have, anyone who knows anything could have seen that was happening. So, which I'm pleased about because, Gaz Coombs is still, he's only in his early 40s. It's not like he's 97. So Supergrass as a band can go around or can go on for another 20, 30 years if they want. So there's definitely no need to knock a band on the head at that age. If he was like 60-something, then fair enough, but not 40. So you can carry on for another few decades yet, mate. So I'm glad they've got back together, and that's that. And the only other band really that needs to get back together is Oasis, isn't it? But is that going to happen? Possibly, eventually. Money does talk. I'm surprised they haven't really, because, there was such a huge band back in the day. But time will tell. I'm sure they will eventually. But I've always had this feeling that Noel gets a bit of a kick out of not getting the band back together. A little bit how, the Smiths have never got back together. Or a better example, I suppose, would be The Jam with Paul Weller. Paul Weller's never, since day one, he's never wanted to do it, ever. And he's always been true to his word. And Noel's been a little bit like that. He's always said, well, I'm not going to do it. But I think one day they might. I just get a feeling they will. So anyway, that's about that for this vid. I'm just winging it. Now it's got to over an hour or there or thereabouts, I think, trying to look at the clock. Yeah, pushing an hour. So a lot longer than I thought, but we all need something to watch at these times. So until my next vid, it might be next week. It might be the week after, as soon as I can, basically. Then keep making vids, everyone at home. Maybe if you've not made one for ages, then do one. Just make a vid and just become part of the community, especially at times like this. Like I say, all sticking together. We all need something to watch. We can all bounce off each other. And I think it's a good thing. So my next vid will probably be next week, but as soon as I can. And it might be a pickups vid, it might be another brew, it might be a music vid. It'll be something. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for all my new subscribers. I've had a few recently. Nothing crazy, but I've had a few. Always appreciate it. Appreciate everyone who watches. Appreciate everyone who comments. I was watching, who was I watching the other day? Planet Retro, Al. And he was talking, a lot of people have mentioned this before, and I think I have. But he was talking about how, not everybody comments on vids. He wasn't being negative. He was just saying, obviously, some people watching a TV and all that kind of stuff. And it's true, not everybody comments. Sometimes you've got nothing to say. I get it. I watch videos where I don't say anything. I'll just watch the vid, I'll appreciate it, and I'll move on to the next. Just because I didn't comment doesn't mean to say I don't appreciate it or that I didn't watch it and all that kind of stuff. So, but nonetheless, interaction's great, isn't it? It's good to, even if it's just showing your face from time to time. So maybe I'll practice what I preach and I'll start to comment a little bit more than what I have. But please don't be offended if I don't comment. Doesn't mean I didn't watch. But anyway, thanks for watching. Until my next vid, take it easy, and I'll see you soon. Light it up.